Alright, so you guys have waited and I will deliver. So here we go. A beautiful deck profile, a very strong deck profile of the Diabolos Viamance Bruce. A big welcome to you all to our channel. We are Team Crushing the Meta. If you're not familiar with me, my name is D-Boy. And if you're not familiar with our content, most of our content is about Diabolos, as in Bruce, and Spike Brothers in Premium and V, if he exists. So yeah, for this video we will talk about the boy Viamance Bruce. The Viamance Bruce got 2 new cards, Playmaker Eli and our promo. And with these 2, we will be able to create a very strong deck. And we've already done a video to talk about the combo that the deck could do. I will do this video where I will show you the deck profile. And then I will do another video where I will show you a gameplay. And I will do a last video where I will talk about what deck is better to pick up for the upcoming meta. But for now, let's start with the deck profile. I will do a fast deck profile first, so we're going back to the old deck profiles, and then I will come back and I will explain the cards, and I will also explain what other choices you could put in the deck, and also what are the differences that you could do. So first of all, for your right deck, of course you play the old Diabolos right deck, because they act perfect with his ability that you need Diabolos on the field. And because in this deck you play Julian, of course, you will play the Diabolos right line. So, Diabolos Viamance Bruce, Diabolos Anger Richard, Diabolos Bad Steve, Diabolos Innocent Matt. That's it for the right deck. Now we go to the grade 3s. So, you want to play Persona right, so you play all 3 different high rarity versions. It's pretty much up to you to play whatever, but yeah. These will be appreciated because you do want to Persona right as much as you can in this deck, because it does make a difference, because this is a 7 attack deck and that's a 70k that you're missing if you don't have your Persona right ready. Alright, then we play 4 copies of Julian, of course play him in his beautiful FFR. Now this guy is insane. It's pretty good card, and it does make the beautiful play that you could do with him, which I've showed you in the combo video, and I will show you a little bit later, a small explanation. So yeah, 4 copies of Julian, very necessary, you can't cut any of them. Alright, now let's continue. We have the grade 2s, so for the grade 2s we play 4 copies of Eli. That is the new cards, followed up by 4 copies of Jamil. It's a good attacking and defensive and calling card. Like, Jamil does a lot for the deck. And then we have the 4 copies of Gino. And then we have a questionable 2 copies of Patrick or 2 copies of Leonard. And that's when things get interesting. And this choice is a choice that you kind of have to make by yourself, depending on your playstyle and which card you prefer. For me personally, I do feel like Leonard is the better option because he gives you soul, but we will come back and talk about this. And for the last 2 grade 2s that we have are 2 of the rides helpers. I'll call them that. Alright, so this is your grade 2 lineup. So you play 4, 8, 12, 10, wait, 4, 12, 10, 14, 16. So you play 16 grade 2s. Alright. Now we have the grade 1s. Those are very simple. You play 4 copies of your promo. Still waiting for the foil ones. You play 1 Stephanie. You can play more if you want to. And 3 perfect arts. Again, up to you to play the art that you like. I like this one, as always, because it's an SP. But I could also see people playing this card as it kind of fits the theme of the deck a little bit more. Even the style of the FR fits the deck because the deck has more FFRs and FRs than SPs. The only SPs that you actually play are Leonard if you play him. So that's one of the reasons why I could understand that people will play the new FRPGs. Alright, now we go to the triggers. We start with 4 heals, then 4 crits, all Diaboloses, 3 fronts, or 4, up to you, and 4 draws, or 3. So this is the card that you could change around. For the overtrigger, I will advise you to play the Dark State OT, but I will explain later what are the benefits of the other OTs if you play them in this deck. Alright. Then we go to the orders. That's our last thing to talk about before we go to the explanation. So we play 1 Elementaria, 1 Bracing Angel Ladder, and 1 Cage. That's it. Alright, now we come to the explanation of the deck. So there is a lot to talk about when it comes to this deck. And it's very important to understand how the deck works to be able to build the deck the right way. So first of all, for the Great Race, let's do the explanation and let's start with the right deck and with the Bruce himself. So Viamance Bruce himself has a very strong ability. His first ability is set at the beginning of your battle phase. If you want to get the final rush, then you need everything on your field to be in Diabolos. Everything on your field needs to have the Diabolos name. If you need final burst, or you want to achieve final burst, then your opponent needs to be at grade 3. So that's basically the first ability. It's different than the older Bruces because the older Bruces gain final rush or final burst at the start of the main phase, or at the start of the right phase actually. So because they got it at the start of the right phase, it make it very difficult for you to do something the turn that you ride into Bruce, because Bruce does nothing, because he will give you that the next turn. So that is a big difference between the two Bruces. Now, there is a possibility to mix the two decks up. I know that nobody does it, but it is possible. And what you do then is you actually play the older Bruce, so Violence Bruce, as your Vanguard, and then you can activate the orders and then you could still ride into this, but you don't benefit from Persona Ride. So there is no reason to do that. You're just activating the order as if it's a Persona Ride. So that's just stupid. Don't do it. But it's a possibility. If you really want to be to make your life even harder. There comes the second ability, and before we get into the second ability, let me explain what is Final Rush or Final Burst. So Final Rush or Final Burst, or both, they are actually a state that you as a player achieve or receive, and they don't do anything by themselves. But there are some cards that require you to have Final Rush or Final Burst to be able to use their ability. So that's it. That's basically it. And then the second ability of this guy, when he attacks, if you are in Final Burst, so you need your opponent to be at grade 3, you count +1, you choose one of your columns and you restand the rear guards with the Diabolos and the card name in that column. And then you gain an extra +5k until the end of turn, or those two units get +5k till the end of turn. So that's basically his ability. Richard is very simple. If you have him as a Vanguard, he gains +5k if you are in Final Rush. If you have this as a Vanguard, when you ride into him, you put one of your Vanguards into your soul and you draw a card. And how do you get that Vanguard? You get it with Steve. Steve's ability on Vanguard, he gains +5k, which that is good in this deck because you sometimes call them from your soul. And then his other ability is when he rides, he calls one of your souls. So this basically is the only one in your soul at that moment. He calls it in the same column as he is, and he will put another card into the soul. That's it. So basically you call this as kind of a forerunner and you gain an extra soul. And then of course you have your mat, which will give you the extra draw, and he will give you the energy generator thingy. So that's it for the right deck. There's nothing new about it. It's the same old. Works very, very, very good in this deck. Way better than in the other decks, because in this deck you could actually really call them. Now, the 3 persona rights, as I explained, are very, very, very important, as they give you the 70k to the front row that you will need in your 7 attack combo. Then you have your Julian. Julian is a attack extender with the Grade 1 promo. What Julian does is when he attacks, it's once per turn, you count +1, and this unit gets +2k until the end of the turn for every card in your damage zone. Then, this will be interesting. So he gains +2k for each card in your damage zone. Okay. Then, if you have a Vanguard with Bruce in the card name, you may soul charge for every 2 cards in your damage zone. And for every card you soul charged, he will call something from your soul to an open rearguard circle. Okay. There is a lot happening there. First of all, what he calls to needs to be an open rearguard circle. So you could not use it to just call on the top of other units. That doesn't work. Second, he gained himself +2k for every damage, but he soul charged for every 2 damage. So if you're on 2 damage, you soul charge 1, you call 1. If you're on 4, you soul charge 2, and you call 2. If you are more than 4, it's of course the same. That's basically it. If you're on 1 damage, he only just gets the extra 2k, and that's it. He doesn't call, he doesn't soul charge, he doesn't do shit. So yeah, basically him, if you have seen the combo video, is the one that extends your whole column, and that column could attack again, then you could re-extend the column. That column, most of the time, will be Geno. That's the whole idea behind it. Alright, now we come to the grade 2. The grade 2s are, you play way more grade 2s in this deck than you play in any other deck, I would say. At least a Diabolos, but I'm not sure if there are any other decks that play this much grade 2s. So first of all, we have to talk about the Leonard Patrick thingy, and then later we will talk about these two and everything else. So there is a reason why I have this comparison put it right here. It is a playstyle thingy, and it is also a little bit of a meta thingy. The thing is, between Leonard and Patrick, there is no right choice, because you don't know what decks you will play against, and you also don't know how their field would look like. But Leonard is just better because he soul charges, and Patrick is less good because he soul blasts. That's like the biggest comparison. Also, Leonard could attack into a column and then take it out, and your opponent would still have to do something. But the difference is that if he attacks a column, then he cannot attack a Vanguard, of course. So let's say he attacks the right or the left column with rearguards, you do take those rearguards out, but you also have not attacked the Vanguard. While in Patrick's comparison, he could Soul Blast 1, and then you could still put 2 of your opponent's rearguards on the Guardian Circle, and he's still attacking the Vanguard. So those 2 will not be enough to guard his attack most of the time, so he still needs to, your opponent still needs to guard with something. But his ability by itself is better than Leonard's ability. That's something that we can agree on. Also, he is stronger, as he is at 20k and this one is only 15k. If Leonard's ability to call is active, then Leonard will be by far better. But if the way it is right now, Patrick is just more flexible, and you don't have to choose to soul charge or do the ability. No, with him you have to soul charge. But the good thing about him is that when he attacks the middle column, which is the Vanguard, he also takes out the Vanguard behind the opponent's Vanguard, which in this modern day, almost every deck plays something behind the Vanguard. So that's like the biggest difference. He is 10, becomes 15 with your persona at 25, but he takes out both Vanguards. And in his, he's 10, gets 10k, with the persona it's 30k. But if he takes out only the Vanguard behind the opponent Vanguard, then he loses the 5k, because that Vanguard in most situations already have a 5k shield. That's why they are exactly the same in that regard, in that scenario. But the reason why most people play Patrick is that Patrick is just flexible. He could attack the Vanguard, you could still take out the 2 front row Vanguards, or the back row Vanguards, or one in this column and one in the other column. You could do whatever you like. While Leonard he needs to attack a column to do that shenanigans, and that's, in my opinion, the biggest difference. If you ask me, as we're making the best Bruce deck, then I will say keep Patrick in the deck, because he works better in the way that the deck is built. Alright, now we talk about the new Eli. So, Diabolos, Playmaker Eli, we have talked about this card a lot, and I've also explained to you in the past the design mistakes that they made when they made this card. I think that the card has too much restrictions, and that was not needed. But yeah, let's explain his ability. So when this unit is placed on Vanguard, other than during the battle phase, you have a Vanguard with Diabolos in its card name, you Energy Blast 3. You look at the top 7 cards of your deck, you choose 2 normal units from among them, you call one to the field, that one that you call to the field needs to be the same grade or less than your Vanguard, and you put one into your soul, and that one doesn't matter what grade it is. Then you shuffle your deck. Then the second ability is, if you are in Final Rush, he gets boost. If you are in Final Burst, he will get boost and plus 5k. That's it. Very simple. It is, as the card said, he's a playmaker. He comes in early game. He does his stuff. He set up your field. He set up your soul. And he does everything that you need. He by himself could actually give you a turn. Just like that. If you put this into your soul and you get Julian to the field, then you're good to go. Like that's your whole setup. So yeah, he could also of course call himself, and then you could do the shenanigans again if you want to. That works perfectly as well, as he's disposable as an attacker or a booster. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to have him on the field. It's nice to have one or a Stephanie because you want one booster at least, but anything from that, it doesn't matter. Alright, so then we have Diabolos Knocker Jamil. It's an interesting name as he's blonde, but yeah, whatever. So this guy has 2 abilities. The first one is a continuous ability, the same as the one that Patrick has, and that is this unit gets plus 10k power and 5k shield if you are on Final Burst. So it's kind of interesting that the shield did not come if you are in Final Rush, which I assume would have been okay to do. But yeah, it is what it is. And then his second ability is when this unit is placed on Vanguard, if your Vanguard is Diabolos Viamance. Bruce, plus 1, soul charge 1, choose up to 1 grade 3 or less normal units from your soul with Diabolos in its card name, and you may call it to in open Vanguard circle. So again, there is no going around calling to a occupied Vanguard circle. You have to call to an open Vanguard circle, or their skill will not be activated in the battle phase. So yeah, you cannot attack extend just like that. You need to retire something first to be able to do that. Alright, then we have the grid 2. If you're on Final Burst, this unit gets plus 10k. It doesn't get shield. This one Patrick only gets 10k power. And then the second ability, which we talked about, that's the one we were comparing to the Leonard, is when this unit attacks a Vanguard, so he could not attack a Vanguard and use the ability, which is something that a lot of people do it by mistake. If you are in Final Rush, you Soul Blast 1, you choose one of your opponent's Vanguards and you move it to the Guardian Circle. Then if you are on Final Burst, then you move 2 instead of 1. So yeah, it's a very good ability to get rid of 2 of your opponent's Vanguards. Then we got these two. I think you already know what these two does, but I will explain them anyway. So you can discard them when you ride in your right phase, and then you Soul Blast 1, you put them into the bottom of your deck, and you draw a card. That's basically the whole reason we play them. But there's a second ability. The second ability is good as well. That is, when this unit is placed on Vanguard from hand, so it needs to be played from hand. If you Persona Road this turn, you counter +1, you choose a card from your soul and you call it to Vanguard. And if you call the card, you may Soul Charge. So it is good, but you do need to call on the top of her because you don't want to have her on the field because she's not a Diabolos. That's important. But in the most situations, it's all about her first ability. That's the one that you want. Alright, that's it for the grade 2s. So this is how your grade 2 lineup looks like if I have to choose between Patrick and Leonard. But then again, I will leave that to you, and I will be switching sometimes between the two. For the grade 1s, we have Stephanie. I play 1, but you could play more. You could definitely play more. I think that it's a card that fits the deck very, very well. And I do understand if people would play more, like 3. I think 3 is a nice number. But for me, for now, I will only play 1, and we will see what will happen in the future. Now we have the 4 copies of the promo. This is a very, very, very good card, and you definitely need to run it in the deck. It's the card that with Julian, it gives you the advantage, it gives you everything that you need, and it works even if you have just Final Rush, which is interesting. So yeah, it's a good card. So what it does it do? It is, if you discard it, or if it is put into your soul during your turn, then you may Energy Blast 3, and you may call it to a back row Vanguard circle, a back row open Vanguard circle. And it's good because pretty much you could just discard it to ride and then call it to the field, the Energy Blast of 3, which I think is fair, but it's too much with Eli in the early game. That's definitely one way to look at it. And then the second ability of it is when your Vanguard attacks, you could retire the front 2 Vanguards that you have with Diabolos in their card name, and then you could move one of your other Diabolos unit to the front row basically, and you draw a card. That's it. Good card. Very, very, very good card. Now we have Stephanie. Let's talk about her as well. If you're on a Final Rush, she gives one of the units in the same column as her. If I think it needs to be Diabolos. No, doesn't even need to be a Diabolos. She gives it just 5k. That's it. Very simple, very effective, because you keep your final burst even and Final Rush, even if you're in your opponent's turn, the unit that she gives power to, keep it. So if, let's say for an example, you have this behind your Vanguard, then your Vanguard becomes the 18k in both turns, which is insane. And of course, PG is a PG. PGs, you can play the one that you like, as I said. Alright, for the triggers. Of course, in this current meta, I feel like the draws are actually very, very good. They do help out a lot, especially in this deck, because this deck doesn't really have that much of a draw engine. The heals are up to you, which one you like to play. Me, myself, I like the vanilla heals, and they are Diaboloses, so you could always call them to boost with them if needed. Sometimes it does happen. The crits, the same. For Diabolos' crits, you do want to play them with this beautiful Bruce deck. And the fronts. I like to play at least 3 fronts. I think the 20k shield is a beautiful amount to have, and having the front trigger active during that attack and killing turn could actually negate the opponent trigger. And because you restand your column, you will always benefit from the front trigger, except in the early game, of course. And now we go to the over trigger. So for the over trigger, of course, you have options, right? So you could play any of the generic over trigger, let's call them, because they're good. The over triggers are good. Like you could use blue, because blue is always good, as it gives one of your attacking unit the extra 100 million in a crit, and you get something back to your hand from your drop zone. And blue fits this deck perfectly, because when you attack with your Vanguard, they need to PG the Vanguard attack, and they need to have a PG left for one of your Vanguards. So that means that the blue OT will be very, very, very effective on that turn. Your opponent needs to have a double perfect guard, otherwise they lose. And it is a little bit hard to come back from that. So that's why the blue OT, in my opinion, is the best choice for the deck, but we will talk about it. Another card that a lot of people play is the yellow OT. Now, the yellow OT is interesting. If you don't know what it does, its additional effects will give you a draw up to 1 card for every 2 of your opponent's open circles. It counts their Vanguards and it counts their Guardian circles. And then you retire all of your opponent's Guardians and Vanguards. So yeah, it's good. If your opponent doesn't have a PG, your finger attack will go through anyway. It still gives the 100 million, still draws you a card, but it draws you more. That's the idea behind it. Even if it doesn't draw you, then it would retire at least your opponent's field and Guardian. So that's the reason why the card is very, very good, because the decks right now do commit to the field. I understand people playing it, but I don't think it's the best choice for this deck. But hey, again, that's my personal opinion. Then we have purple. I don't think that purple is suited for this deck. It is playable, but I don't think that's the best thing. Its additional effects say choose up to 1 card from your damage zone, put it into your hand, and choose a card from your hand and call it to Vanguard, and it gets plus 10k until the end of turn. Well, it does give you an extra attack, it does give you a heal, so in that sense it's good, but it doesn't really do a big turn or something. It doesn't really make that big of a difference. Maybe you could call like the promo grade 1 on the top of a promo grade 1 and then do shenanigans with him, but yeah, I think that's just pushing it. And then another OT, which is the red OT. The red OT is the one that we played in the past in this deck because we could not restand both columns. But now with Gino, there is no reason to play the red OT. I mean, why? Why would you? Why would you? So the options that you have, in my opinion, are blue, yellow, or the dark state OT. And now we come to the interesting comparison. If you compare these two, I think that the blue is better. But I do know that there are other people that don't agree with me. The yellow is a good setup, but what do you want to do with setup? You can't keep up setup. You want to kill. The turn that you get the OT is the turn that you want to kill. So that's the reason why, in my opinion, the yellow OT is just not suited for my playstyle. But it does work in this deck, but it's not suited for my playstyle. Now we come to blue or dark state OT. In which situations is the blue better, and in which situations is the dark state OT better? The blue OT is better in one situation. That is, if your opponent's PGs your Vanguard attack and they don't have a second PG for your Vanguard attacks, and they are on 4 damage. That's when you will give the crits and the 100 million to one of your Vanguards, and that one will attack and they don't have a PG, so they die. If your opponent is already on 5 damage, then it doesn't make a difference because you will give the 100 million to one of your regulars, and then if they don't have a PG, they will die anyway. So, yeah. Of course, in a situation where you could not kill your opponent, you could not finish them off, then adding that extra card from your drop zone back to your hand could make a difference. But again, we're not thinking about that. So why do I play the Dark State OT? In my opinion, Dark State OT is better because it doesn't matter when you drive check it, you will benefit from it. If you drive check it in the early game, you will keep benefiting from it the whole game. Although your Vanguard attack is really not that strong, I still think that Dark State OT is just too good not to play. But then again, people argue with me on that and they would rather play blue. So if we're talking logical, what's the best OT for the deck? It will be blue. It would definitely be blue. But for my personal playstyle, I most of the time will be playing the Dark State OT. But for argument's sake and for the sake of this video, for the best Viamance Bruce deck out there, the same as with the Leonard Patrick comparison, I will say blue OT is best OT in this deck. Alright, now we go to the orders, and that will be it for this video. Orders. Orders. Bam. Ba, 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 ba. There is no reason to play the other Elementaria, so yeah, that's self-explanatory. Elementaria is just good in this format and every format. Cage is, in my personal opinion, a very, very, very interesting card. He could pretty much be just a one-card setup. You could activate Cage to get Eli, and activate Eli to get something to your soul and something to the field, and then you're set to go. Like, if you're missing Gino in your soul, but you still have some in your deck, if you're missing Julian on your field, but you still have some on deck, then this is perfect. He also gives you a soul charge already, so he's already giving you options. Also, he's giving that unit that he calls plus 5k, which means if you give it to a booster, then you could benefit twice from that 5k. So yeah, again, another very, very good card to add to the deck. And of course, the only turn you can't play it is the turn you play Angel Leather, which doesn't really come that much often that you want to play both at the same turn, but sometimes it does, and then this is good. This is a good way to balance the two. Angel Leather, although Cup is better in this deck, as in it gives you the Persona right, and the Persona right is very important in this deck. You could actually get your Persona right consistent to your hand back with Gino. So in my opinion, there is no reason to play Cup. But there is a big reason to play Angel Leather. Although other people play other Regalia pieces, at some of them, even at the drop zone, they do something. I still think that, yeah, I still think that Angel Leather is just better. It also, like, lets your field live one more turn, which is good, because if you have your setup, which you do on your grade 3 turn, then you want to play Angel Leather, actually. So for that turn, you will keep your booster, your promo, you will keep the things that you move to the front row, you will keep your back row, you will keep your field a little bit, and they also could not pressure you and kill you on that turn. If you have both of them in hand and you want to use this first, and you still want to benefit from the restanding ability of an example, if you go second, that's also possible, but I would say leave it for the turn after. That'll be the killing turn, and for that turn, use cards like Angel Leather if you have it in your hand. Yeah, that's basically it. What do you want me to explain more? I think that I have covered everything. There are other cards that you could play in the deck. There are some grade 2s that you could play in the deck. You could always play the Energy Cyclers. They work in every deck, but I don't think that is necessary to play in this deck. You could always play Eden. He's very good when he restands, but he just comes in an awkward moment, as now you will get the Julian and the Gino to the front row, so there is no moment where Eden will restand. And you will could always play Megan. Megan is just a powerhouse. She gets plus 10k when she attacks if you are in Final Rush, which means the first attack she will be 30, the second attack she will be 40. That is without boost. So yeah, Megan is well, she is something, but in this deck I actually would rather not play Megan. I would rather play cards like Patrick, which they already get the extra 10k, they keep it even in your opponent's turn, but they just get rid of some of your opponent's irritating regards, and I think that's more important than just power. So that's why we don't play these in this deck. Alright, and that's actually it for this video. There are other cards that you could play in as well. We could talk a little bit about them. Like, there is one great one that always had potential, and it could potentially give you more attacks, but now with the new combo, like, you don't need it. So there are a lot of cards like that that you could fit into the deck, but they will not make the deck better. And that's one of the reasons why I felt like there is no reason to go into them. But if you guys have any questions about them, just let me know. For example, this was one of the cards that I was talking about. She's good, but again, you would rather not play her. There are other cards that you could play in this deck. For an example, this was one of the earlier attack extenders that we used. It's very good. She could give you an extra attack, but now because of the promo that get rid of the 2 front row, there is no reason to play her because the Julian's already active, or you need to have 2 Julians on the field, and again, that's pushing it. And that's a lot of counterblast that you use in one turn. Every Julian will use 1, your Vanguard will use 1, and she will use 1, so that's 4 CB in one turn. And that's a lot. That's definitely a lot. So that's the reason why you don't really play it. This is actually an interesting card because she does give you the opportunity to put the regard into the soul, but yeah, the random calling is kind of strange. So again, you would rather not. And the Regalia piece that a lot of people are playing right now is this one. I feel like Angel Leather is better, but yeah, maybe if Nubatam will be played less, then I understand people playing that. The counter charger is good, the counter charging is good, and the extra draw is always nice. And of course, this one. A lot of people are playing this because when you soul charge it and you soul blast it, you have a benefit from it in the drop zone. But again, in my opinion, Angel Leather is still better. Even without Nubitama, Angel Leather just keeps your field. And in this deck, you actually would like your promo to live as long as it can behind the Vanguard. Otherwise, you will have to search for it from your deck again, or yeah, just have a harder time. Another card that is good in this deck as well is this one. Because if you random soul charge it, like for an example, if you play Leonard or with Jamil or Jamal, then you could use it from your soul, and you will have the energy later on in the game, as you don't really have that much cards that keep on using the energy except Eli. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this deck. I think that we covered everything that we wanted to cover. Again, like, there are some choices that you will have to make for yourself, but yeah, this is the best deck that you could create. Stephanie, you could pump her up if you want to. You could remove some cards. For an example, one of the cards that you could remove is Jamil. You don't have to play 4, you could play 3. And the other card that you could remove is your order, your cage order, because it's not necessary in the deck. I do like it, but it's not necessary. So I understand people removing that one as well. But yeah, again, up to you. There are many things that you could change about the deck, and I think that's a good thing. Alright, thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for tuning in on our channel. There is a possibilities to add more defense into the deck, like Neil, the great one. I will keep saying stuff, so even if we talk for hours and hours about this deck profile. But I have to cut it right here, otherwise the video will be way too long, and that's definitely not my intention. So again, thank you for tuning in on our channel, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this deck profile. I know that some people are waiting a long time to see this, but I could not give you a deck profile that is not the best. And this deck, it's insanely good. So, till next time, guys. Till next time.